Hurricane Sam is on its approach towards Bermuda. It is right. Bermuda is right here. It is starting to make a turn towards the northeast at this current time, with the latest advisory from the NHC. Still a 150-mile-per-hour hurricane at 30 degrees north. So yeah, it's latitude 30 degrees north. It's still a 150-mile-per-hour hurricane, and a longitude of 61.8 degrees west. This hurricane is probably one of the most impressive things in nature I have ever seen, and that's saying something. Because, and no, this doesn't necessarily rival things like Dorian, but it does rival hurricanes such as Ida, Laura, Michael, Harvey. Yeah, it's been a very fascinating thing to cover, honestly. Very fascinating thing to study. But anyway, back to what I was saying. It's moving north at 20 miles per hour, so the speed has slowed down, which indicates that that turn is about to begin. A turn, like I said, turn towards the northeast at a slightly slower speed is expected by tonight, followed by northeastward motion Saturday night through Monday. On the forecast track, the center of Sam will pass well east of Bermuda tonight. And if we look at the tropical storm force winds right here, Bermuda could get a little bit of it, but right now all they're getting is really is some cloud cover of it. It's not necessarily in the outer bands yet, but they have that tropical storm warning up now because of the possibility of tropical storm force conditions. But once again, I'll be keeping a very close eye on it. We'll go back to actually before we go there, we'll go back to the cone. It's expected to remain a major hurricane by Sunday now. So, yeah, this thing is really still at 150 miles per hour, so I'm not necessarily surprised about it. But, yeah, then it's expected to become post-tropical by Tuesday now, so, yeah, we'll be keeping a close eye on it. We'll get to that in a second. Maximum sustained winds, like I said earlier, are 150 miles per hour, with higher gusts. Sam is a strong Category 4 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. Although fluctuations in intensity are still possible, weakening is forecast during the next couple of days. Sam is expected to remain a major hurricane through at least Saturday night or Sunday early morning in this case. There's no change in the hurricane force winds or tropical storm force winds, still 60 miles from the center and 205 miles from the center respectively. No change in pressure at 937. But yeah, this hurricane truly it really shows how resilient this is. Alright, we'll go ahead and go to the tracks. These are outdated, but there are several miles that now take it into Iceland now. So that's a pretty interesting development. It's a week out, so we'll wait and see what happens at this point. So yeah, I'll be keeping a close eye on it. Now to the intensity. At this point, this is it. The majority of the miles have it starting to weaken after this point, while some have it remaining at 150 for a little bit, then gradually weakening like the CEMI, and then have it go back to a Cat 4 hurricane. Probably not going to happen. AEMI, have it gradually weakening down to a major hurricane status a week out. Probably, we're not sure what's going to happen with that. Take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, the majority of the models have it weakening down to a Cat 1 hurricane by 3 days out, and then down to a tropical storm by 5 days, and then potentially a tropical depression a week out. So yeah, I'll be keeping a very close eye on that. So back to Hurricane Sam at this point. This is Bermuda right here. This is the core of Hurricane Sam, still going strong. Even though the eye looked a little ragged for a little bit, it's still relatively circular at this point. It's still relatively strong. It still has those relatively upper minus 60s up at that point. It's still keeping it. It's still keeping its act together. But yeah, I've never seen a hurricane this strong, this far north. So it really tells you that there's some warm water near Bermuda, and this thing is taking full advantage of it. It's not nearly where when it comes to Bermuda, it's not as close as Hurricane Larry was, But at the same time, this is a much powerful, much stronger hurricane than Larry. It was a Cat 2 at this point and of time when it was approaching Bermuda and then Newfoundland, becoming the first hurricane to make landfall in Canada since Igor in 2010. So that's something interesting right there. We talked about that before. But yeah, this is Sam at its fullest extent. We continue to monitor the situation as it develops, but before we go, I'm going to go ahead and talk about a couple of things real quickly, or a few key takeaways, as I like to call them. One, no changes in really anything. It's still maintaining its strength and intensity. It's maintaining its size. It's maintaining its pressure. It's maintaining everything, which is impressive, especially for a system this far north. Like you can see on the satellite imagery. Heck, I'm actually going to go to the true color zoomed out and look how impressive this hurricane looks right here. Look how impressive. Like I can see I can see it spinning at a relatively quick pace. It wasn't going nearly as fast according to satellite radar as it was a week ago, but it is still moving very fast. And keep in mind the hurricane has expanded in size, so yeah, you can see Delaware, New Jersey, parts of Virginia, North Carolina, Maryland out there. You guys are going to see some swells. You guys are going to see some surf that's going to come up. Just want to let you guys know about that. So that's the only hazard we're going to see in the U.S., which is just some rip currents, some surf. Bermuda, they're in the outer edges of the hurricane. They're going to probably see some outer bands of this before it goes. So yeah, this is a satellite right here. We can see that we're going to go ahead and go to high res right here, get a little closer look. But yeah, you can see, even though it's getting a little dark right here, it shows you that stadium effect right here. So yeah, it's like this once again shows you like Sam. This once again shows you that Sam is it has a very big. It doesn't have necessarily very large, but it has a very organized structure, even this far north. Because I remember Larry's core collapsed, and then just tried to recover, never did. And Sam is still maintaining that. That's what mesmerizes me. So yeah, this is key takeaway one. It's basically maintained everything. It's maintained its strength, maintained its intensity, maintained its pressure, maintained everything. Second key takeaway: the cone has this moving towards the northeast, then the northeast as a major hurricane for a couple of more days. Then as a Cat 2, then it becomes a post-tropical cyclone at hurricane strength by Tuesday, and then by Wednesday it's out into the northern Atlantic as a tropical storm strength. There are now several models that have this hurricane making its approach towards Iceland as a post-tropical cyclone, which is something very interesting. I'll keep a very close eye on it. This will kind of remind me of Hurricane Ophelia back in 2017. As it approached Ireland, it made landfall there as a post-tropical cyclone at hurricane strength, and then made landfall in Scotland at a slightly weaker state. So this will be an interesting thing to watch if it does actually make landfall in Iceland. So yeah, I'll be keeping a very close eye on that. Next key takeaway: this is it. Majority of the models agree that after this point, it's going to start weakening. Some have it gradually weakening. Others have it rapidly weakening down to a tropical storm within 60 hours. Others wait a few more days till about 108 hours, or about 4.5 days. So yeah, that's something interesting. I'll be watching it. It's just a wait and see at this point. I hope this hurricane gets weak very quickly. Well, not weak necessarily. It's not necessarily going to get weak very quickly. It's going to take a few days for it to wind down, but I just hope it starts weakening at that point, because its time is pretty much running out at this point. I'm surprised it's maintained its intensity at this point. Final key takeaway: the core of Sam is still very organized. It's now north of the 30 degrees north part, and it is still an impressive feat that this thing is as organized as it is. Bermuda, they're going to see some outer bands later tonight. I'll be keeping a close eye on it, so be sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more updates.